it looks like I've been crying, that's because I have. I also need to preface this video with saying I'm probably gonna cry during it, and I'm also on my period. So that is why I'm acting this way. Will this ever see the light of day? Probably not, but I just want to say it so I can get it done and get it out there and be done. So I woke up this morning and I just had like a little realization, and I thought I would talk about it because I'm sure that some of you out there can relate. I'm very emotional right now. It's like I'm like the hormones. A couple of days ago, maybe like a week ago, my baby started teething, and within just a couple of days he went from like, I'm just gonna cry, whatever, this little gummy smile to teeth. And not only that, but like it just feels like it was yesterday that he couldn't sit up, he couldn't play with toys independently, he had a little gummy mouth, and now he's just big. He's sitting up fully on his own, and he plays independently, and he's got these little chompers, and he's eating solid food, and he went from like this tiny little baby to this, God, he's like a toddler already. This isn't about that. This is about the realization I had this morning, where I was thinking back to all the sleepless nights and nursing him, and just sometimes I'd be sitting there nursing him to sleep for, hours, and I'd be up multiple times in the night, and I'd have to hold him to sleep, and he would only sleep on me. And I remember in those moments saying things like, it'll be so much easier when he can sit up on his own and play on his own. When will that happen? People kind of said like when they're 6 months old. So my mind has been like, waiting till he's 6 months, waiting till he's 6 months. And now he's 6 months and he's sitting up on his own. He's playing more independently. And then I look back and I'm like, well, why was I so keen on you growing up so fast? Because now that he's grown up, I'm like, this is what you wanted. And then it made me think about how so many things are that way. And I've talked about this before, but I've mentioned that when we look into our future, typically I don't know about anybody else, but I'm pretty sure this is a pretty common thing because I've kind of heard it across the board. You say like, when I blank, then I'll be happy. Oh, when you can blank, then it'll be easier. When you can, when we have blah, then life will be good. But ultimately, what I'm discovering is that as you do that, like you truly are looking forward. And in that moment, I feel like in some ways, you're not fully enjoying it because you think, oh, this is good, but like when you blank, then I'll be happy. And I'm not saying that I'm not happy, obviously, but like I just feel like when he was really, really little, I would say like, oh, it'll be easier when you're 6 months old, and then it'll be really good. And now I look back and I'm like, in those moments, I kind of robbed myself of the joy that I could have been experiencing in a way because I was thinking about like when it'll be easier. And now that it is, I look back and I'm like, but why didn't I just hold on to that moment when I had it? And I feel like sometimes we can do that in other areas of our life. Like, oh, when I'm a doctor, then I'll be happy. But the time when you're in school, or that'll be when I can, that'll be when I get a house, then I'll be. And you do that stuff a lot. I feel like as humans, we tend to make comments like that like all the time. Like when it's summer, then I'll be happy. So, but like when it's winter and spring and fall, you're just waiting for summer. But then when summer's here, you're like, well, when it's Christmas, it's almost like there's just always this, when it's blank, then I'll be blank. And I feel like sometimes we can get stuck in that so much so that we forget to like live in the moment. And I say we, But I'm obviously just talking about me right now. I don't know. I'm sure that other people feel this way. I've seen it kind of across the board. I've seen like viral tweets go out about this exact thing. Like when you're constantly looking in the future, you're truly not living in the now. And we don't get this time back. Like my baby is as young as he's ever going to be today. I know that with the loss of one aspect of his babyhood, that comes with the gain of a new milestone, a new skill. I know this. It doesn't still make it less sad. I guess I said something the other day about like my baby growing up too fast on Twitter, and people were like, what's wrong with that? You want to keep him stagnant? You want to keep him little forever? You want to, why are parents like that? Why do it's not about like, oh, I want to hold you back to keep you little forever. It's just the realization that like the saying is, babies don't keep. But it's more of like a bigger picture realization that like life is just, it's crazy. It's like, it just passes by so fast. Before you know it, you look back and it's just like time is a thief. I think that being a parent has made me realize it more than anything, because you get to watch the actual like personification of time being a thief. When it's you and you're like 30 to the age of 31, not much changes, you know, like you kind of look the same, you kind of act similar, you know, things change on the day-to-day, but you don't have like a physical representation of that thing as much as when you see like your infant baby that was 6 pounds to 6 months later, you have this kid with teeth who can sit up and is almost 19 pounds. Like the realization of time just looks different through looking at your child. Like it hits different. And I think I'm just realizing that like I personally tend too often to say things like, oh, it'll be so fun when in the future, instead of like living in this moment that we're in now and fully like soaking it in. And I don't know that it's possible. Is it possible to fully soak in everything? I don't know. It's almost like subconscious, like you can't help but think, when I have blank, then that'll be the time. And to me, it might be one of my least favorite parts of being a human, is that it's almost like you can't fully appreciate the moment that you're in until that moment is gone, and then you look back at it and go, well, what the hell? I was in it, you know? I think the perfect analogy for it is, sorry, these hormones got me fucked up. It's like the line from The Office that Andy says. The quote is, I wish that you could know that you were in the good old days before you actually left them. And it's so true. And I think that sometimes it takes a little bit of something like this to realize that like, it's about living now, if we can, you know? Everyone has different situations and stuff like that. And I mean, I'm not missing out on anything. God, I'm with him all day long. And I'm so blessed and lucky to be able to be home with my baby. And I'm so aware of that I'm not missing out, you know? And I know. And anytime I talk about it, people point that out. And trust me, it is not lost on me that I am so lucky to be able to stay home with him and to be able to have these moments. But it's crazy that even when you're in it like that even when you try to soak up every minute of it, and everyone says that, like, soak it all in now, mama, because it goes by fast. Those words don't make it possible. You can't soak it all in. You can't soak it in enough. You can't hold them close enough, you know? And it's not just a parenting thing. It's almost like parenting and motherhood and all of that just made me so keenly aware of how life just goes so fast, and how we really do only have one of these lives, and we only get it for such a short amount of time. Even though, you know, say I live 100 years, that's just not long enough to feel like it's enough, you know? And children just really, it just drives home how you really only live once, and how you should really just try, if you can, to live in the moment. And it's hard because I feel like we are meant to look forward. We're meant to, yearn for more. We're meant to like have it's progression. And I feel like it's good for us to want to move forward, because if you don't want to, then what's the point in trying, you know? I mean, it's like one of those things where if you're just like, there is no ultimate happiness, because even when you're in it, there's always something else generally that you're striving for, you know? Like whether that be a new job, or if you're renting, you want to buy a house, or if you've already bought your house, you want to improve upon the landscape, or if you've already improved upon the landscape, like you're going to be traveling in the future, or, you know, a new hobby. There's things to look forward to. There's things in life that you want to advance towards. And I think that that's good and it's healthy. And obviously my son growing up and gaining these new skills, he's a human. He's not just my baby. Just like me as a baby, I did all these things too. So did you. We all met these milestones, and I'm sure all of our moms cried over them. It's just so like right there in front of me that you can't miss it. You can't like, you see it happening right before your eyes. And it truly is like that. Like one day they're doing something that where you're like, you couldn't do that yesterday. And it just makes you so clearly see how fast and fleeting time is. And it doesn't have to be a sad thing, but it can be a sad thing too. It's not that I'm sad about it happening. It's just that it's almost like, I saw a TikTok. My husband actually sent it to me, and it was saying that kids today look at the 90s the way that kids in the 90s looked at the 60s. That much time has elapsed. And it just was like, shit just hit different. When you're a little kid, you think, I can't wait till I'm older so I can blank. And then when you're older, you're like, I wish I was a kid again. Because you don't have the troubles of the world, you don't have the worries, you just can think back to like a time where things were kind of carefree, and you didn't have the worries of the world. And let me tell you right now, being a mother is like the greatest blessing of my life. I love it so much, I cry, because it is truly wonderful. But there's a part of it that's so all-consuming and all-encompassing, and that part is that once you have this little baby that you love more than life itself, like you love more than you know what to do with, your brain isn't your own brain anymore. My brain does not exist for me anymore. I don't know that I think about myself at all hardly anymore. And this doesn't mean losing myself into motherhood. A lot of people want to diagnose you with shit like that when you start talking about any of this, especially when you cry on camera on YouTube, which is honestly so pathetic, and I shouldn't even be doing it. But I don't really care, because these are human emotions that I feel, and I feel like sometimes people can kind of agree with me, but people love to diagnose you with things. So like when I'm going to post this video, there's going to be inevitably people in the comments that say, oh mama, this is postpartum depression, you need it. I'm literally on my period, I'm fine most days. Emotions definitely hit me harder postpartum, because when I have these emotions, before I would just be like, I don't feel good today, and I would like sit on the couch and watch The Office. But now when I'm like feeling emotions, they're tied to this like beautiful human that I love more than I can explain. But people would love to just throw out the term of like, oh, this is, you need to talk to your doctor. No, I'm feeling fine. I'm generally like pretty good most days. But because they say your heart walks outside of your body, and that is what I feel for him. I mean, it's just fucking overwhelming in a beautiful way, but in like a, my brain does not exist for me anymore. I mean, it does. Again, when you say stuff like that, people are like, you shouldn't lose yourself into motherhood. You shouldn't lose yourself. I'm not. I definitely do things for myself. I film things all the time. I work. I have my own things that I do. I take time for myself. It doesn't mean though that I don't feel my heart walking around outside of my body, and that my concern exists elsewhere now too. Not only, but two. And what I mean by that is, before I had him, I could relax. I can't simply just ever fully relax anymore, because my brain exists on this other spectrum with this little guy. Like, even when he's asleep, I'm not able to like fully relax because, you know, he's up on the monitor, and you know, you worry. You'll worry. That's just what it is. It's not an all-encompassing, completely overwhelming, can't sleep at night worry. I sleep at night. It's just there. And once it's there, I don't know that it ever goes away. And I don't want it to go away. I guess there is no point for this video, just to sit and talk. I'm not looking for a solution, because there is no solution, because time will pass and I will look at my baby grow up, and one day he won't be a baby anymore. He will be a little boy, a little toddler, and then he'll be a child. Then he'll be a preteen and a teen and an adult. And it happens so fast. And it is one of those things where they say the days are long and the years are short. And holy shit, are they ever. He's 6 months old. And one day I'll look back at this video and be like, he was only 6 months old. And it is a joy to watch him grow. It's a privilege to watch my baby grow and to see him develop and gain these new skills and meet these milestones. I don't want him to go backwards in time, because the baby I have now is a beautiful, wonderful angel. A busybody and a lot, but I'm sure that that will only increase as time goes on. Inevitably, when you say stuff like this too, people will be like, oh, just you wait. And I get why people do that. I know why people do it, because they are trying to prepare you for like the inevitable of like, oh, you think he's busy now? Well, just you wait. Trust me, I know just you wait. I've experienced just you wait. And I've only experienced it for the last half a year. But gosh, if anything has hit me, it's realizing, I look back and I'm like, oh, whoa, they meant it. And I know what they mean now. And I'm sure that I'll get a bigger dose of that when he's a toddler and he's having tantrums and he's looking at me and he's screaming, or when he's fighting back with me, or when he's back talking me, or when I watch him learn to ride a bike, or when I watch him, you know, run away on the playground to go play with another kid. And I'm not sad about it, but I am sad about it. It's just, man. And I don't think you can mentally prepare yourself for it. I don't think you can soak in your baby enough. I don't think any of it is possible. That's the thing. It's almost like trying to understand the vastness of the universe, trying to understand forever. You can't do it. Like, our minds can't fathom forever. You can't, there has to be an end and there has to be a start. You can't just imagine, you know, people are like, imagine that space is ever expanding and there is no end. You can't imagine it because you're not capable of that understanding. It's like the same way that like you can say all of this stuff, like it, you know it to be true, but you can't like understand it enough to be like, now I get it. I think that's what's so hard about it, is that as much as I cry, and as much as I know it, and as much as I realize it, and as much as all of it is true, it's still happening. Life will still move. He will still get bigger. I will get older. And I will still say things like, when we have blank, then I will be blank. Because I think that that's just what we do. I think that's just how people are. But I wish we weren't. And I don't know if you can fully ever actually get out of that. I don't know if you can fully ever actually stop feeling that way, even if you don't say those words. Are there people who fully live in the moment and who don't look to the future for ultimate happiness, or who don't look to the future and say things like, oh, when you do this, then we'll? Because it's not true. Yes, he can sit up on his own and play independently now. But now I'm wanting my baby back that sleeps on my chest. So what the fuck? Bullshit ass brain. Dumb ass. Stupid fucking asshole brain. It's bullshit, frankly, is what it is. Anyway, that was the whole point of this video. That was it. Whether this will ever see the light of day, I don't know. But sometimes I like to upload things that I'm even questioning. Like sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, you definitely should not post that. And sometimes those are the ones I do. Because, you know, I might look back at this and be like, oh, sweet summer child, you knew shit about shit. But sometimes I like that because you can look back and be like, oh, I thought I knew the secrets to the universe then, and I didn't know shit then. And in 5 years, I'm sure I'll look back at this and be like, oh, if only you knew then what you know now. Hi, Scrubby. How was your nap, cutie? Don't push away from me.
Mommy was just venting about this.
I love you. And how much I miss you. Feel so cute as a big. Oh. Thank you guys for watching. I always love reading the comments of things like this because it's just nice to connect with other people who might be feeling the same way and might not be feeling the same way. And sometimes you get a new perspective that you didn't really think about, you know? Sometimes you can see a different side and somebody can kind of change your thought process around things. And I like that because sometimes what I try to do is like Google it, or I look it up, or I think like, do any other moms feel this way? And the answer is yes. But also the answer is sometimes somebody that reframes your brain in a way that changes it from being this sad thing to being something to be celebrated or look forward to. I just want to make it clear, this isn't about me not wanting my child to grow or wanting to stunt his growth. He's a independent human that I know. I already know all of that. Trust me. I'm so aware of all of it. And I agree. I want him to be an independent, free-thinking, wonderful human who does grow. But it does not take away the emotions of like, well, shit, it's happening too fast. He's only 6 months old. You see him. He's a tiny little baby still. But he won't be so soon. And even though 5 years sounds like a far time away, God, I can't even imagine. 5 years ago, I was doing stuff that I'm like, that was this lifetime. It feels like 30 years ago. That's how fast things go with them too. So like, God, I just thank God that I get to experience all those really exciting moments. But what I hope is that when I'm in them, I can be in them. I don't want to experience his first Halloween thinking about his second Halloween and thinking about his sixth Halloween. And when we have that Halloween, then we can, no, I want to have that first one be so special. But I wish that when you were in it, you could really fully be in it and not ever be thinking about future anything. And I wonder how to practice that skill, or if it's even potentially possible. Maybe it always feels like the party goes by too fast and you look back and you're like, oh, that was so fun. Wish it was still here. Maybe that's just part of this thing we call life, and we just have to accept the fact that you can never fully soak in anything as much as you want to. Like, your first time in Hawaii will always feel like it was too short, and I wish we would have stayed longer. And your baby will always feel like they grow too fast. And you'll always look back at the past as though the past was something so much better than it was. You know, when I was in it, I was like, oh, please, oh my God. But then now I look back and I'm like, oh, what I wouldn't give. Maybe that's just life's way of romanticizing things, you know. But I want to romanticize things. I want to be romantic about the past and excited about the future. I guess that means sometimes crying in the now. I don't know. Okay, well, I thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you at my next video. Bye. It's been a few days since I filmed this, and I'm uploading it because I think that sometimes it's interesting to see just like the different emotions that we go through. And what I'm saying is still relevant, even though I'm so emotional in it. Period's gone, emotions are regulated, and my son this morning was laying in bed and for the first time babbled mama. And it is exactly what I'm discussing in this video, that he's growing up before my eyes too quickly. Sometimes it feels, but this is the moment where it's like, it's exciting and it's wonderful. And I was screaming and so excited. So when you hear me say like, he's growing so fast right before my eyes and I just want to keep my little baby little, it's these moments where I say, but do you? You know, he's already done so much more in these last few days that I just can't even believe it, but it's so wonderful and exciting, and big milestones that are not sad. They're very exciting. So